This is from the Associated Press. A sudden wave of pipe bombs targeting Hillary Clinton, former President Barack Obama, other prominent Democrats, and CNN was thwarted without physical harm, but an anxiety-filled day on Wednesday deepened political tensions and fears 2 weeks before national midterm elections. None of the bombs detonated, as law enforcement took them away for examination and disposal. The first crude bomb, emphasis mine, to be discovered had been delivered Monday to the suburban New York compound of George Soros, a liberal billionaire and major contributor to Democratic causes. The FBI said an additional package was intended for former Attorney General Eric Holder, but that one ended up at the Florida office of Democratic Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, whose return address was on it. This is not actually proof of anything, but anyways, continuing on. Later Wednesday, a package addressed to Representative Maxine Waters, with similar markings and characteristics to the other devices, was intercepted at a Los Angeles mail facility. The targets of the bombs were some of the figures most frequently criticized by President Donald Trump. As an aside, no one criticized these people before Trump came on the scene. Continuing with the quote, who still assails Clinton at rallies while supporters chant, "Lock her up," 2 years after he defeated her and she largely left the political scene. End quote. Now, what seems most pertinent to you in this story? To me, it's the fact that they use the word crude. This is not merely an odd choice of words from the Associated Press alone, but seems to accurately describe the nature of the devices, which very well may turn out to not be bombs at all. This is from the New York Times. Quote, none of the devices harmed anyone, and it was not immediately clear whether any of them could have. One law enforcement official said investigators were examining the possibility that they were hoax devices that were constructed to look like bombs, but would not have exploded. End quote. Now, I'm going to assume that you, the viewer, share at least one assumption with me, and that is that the media likes sensationalism. They prefer things that are aggravating, that induce anger, horror, fear, despair, outrage, terror. That's what they like. And it's not an ideological thing. They like it because it sells. If it bleeds, it leads, as they say in the industry. And they need this right now as their flagships are financially struggling. So if that's the case, and if you go one step further, you don't need to take this step, but if you do take this step and assume, as I do, that the media is largely not just ideologically aligned with, but activists for the mainstream left and the Democratic Party. Again, you don't need that assumption, but if you assume those two things, why would they call these bombs crude? Why would they not say super hyper lethal assault bombs? I exaggerate slightly for the effect, but you get the point. Why? What crude is such a it's a subjective term. You could describe all sorts of things as crude, because it's a matter of personal taste, essentially. Does this thing look or seem crude? And they could have left it out. They could have chosen another word if they had wanted to, a better adjective, but they didn't. They went with crude. If the bombs were even remotely lethal, if you assume that they are going for sensationalism, and if you assume further that they are aligned with the Democratic Party, it would make no sense for them to use the word crude, unless crude is the strongest, most generous possible adjective they can give to these bombs in terms of the actual danger that they pose. So there's really two possibilities as far as where this bomb came from. One, it was a sincere attempt at a multiple assassination. Two, it was not. It was a false flag. Those are the two options. Now, option one leaves open all sorts of possibilities as who might have attempted to sincerely attack all these people. Could have been a Republican. Could have been ISIS. Could have been a mentally perturbed person. We don't know. But pipe bombs are not that difficult to make. They're really not. And so this attacker is either really, really, really inept, or it's a false flag. Because again, the law enforcement is not even convinced that these are real bombs. But so either the attacker is completely inept, which is possible. But if you are going to assume that it was inept, you have to also assume that there are two further coincidences. One, who benefits? This wasn't a random assortment of celebrities, the way that a lot of other crazy people tend to go. This was a politically homogenous set of targets who uniformly benefit from these attacks. It wasn't like they were attacking Republicans and Democrats, or Democrats and rock stars. If it had been Hillary Clinton, and a movie Orlando Bloom, like that would say probably crazy. But you have a clear beneficiary here, which is the Democratic Party. That does not indicate insanity, generally speaking. So that's one coincidence. They just happen to benefit from this. And coincidence two is the timing of this. There are 12 months in a year, and there are, any time you could get a bomb attack anytime throughout the year. Now, 1 in 12 isn't horrendously unlikely, but it should be a little suspect given the emphasis that pollsters put on the October surprise, right? This is perfectly in there. This is 2 weeks before the election, as the AP acknowledged. It just happens to coincide with the upcoming elections. If I were a betting man, my money would be on the idea that this is a false flag attack. My bet would be that some Democratic operative, possibly even connected to the higher-ups, created these fake bombs and sent them out. Now, this is just a guess. This is just a hypothesis. We don't know all the facts, of course. And there will be plenty of people who say, we have to wait for more information. You shouldn't be positing theories. You shouldn't be throwing out guesses. Because they're not familiar with how science works. You have to make guesses in order to test out worldviews and then see if the facts coincide with that. But it's all very selective. But if you are going to say you should wait for more information before positing such theories, Chris, or whoever, you have to just wait for the facts to come in. That's fine. But if you're going to do that, make sure you actually remember to find out what that information was. And don't say when the information actually does come out, oh, that's so last year. This sort of news cycle induced amnesia, where we just don't remember anything so far as the facts are concerned. And we use the lack of facts in the moment as a kind of repressant for people who are trying to identify patterns and put together theories about how the world actually works. You create an environment where there is no accountability, because no one remembers anything. There's no learning, because people never check to see if their theories were proven right or wrong. That's the point of making these guesses anyways, is to see, does what my worldview predict actually pan out? That's how you test. Is it a good theory or not? There's no accountability. There's no learning. So why even bother having the conversation? There's no point in engaging if people aren't going to remember and stuff. So if you were going to say, wait for more information before positing this crazy, conspiracy theory, Chris, go ahead and wait. But do remember to wait. That's my thought on it. We'll see how things pan out.